the National Association of Black Journalists had Donald Trump on earlier today, and he just gave a spectacular performance. I mean, just an all-time performance from Donald Trump, showcasing that he is not exactly the best at dealing with contentious interviews, especially in a relatively hostile environment. His goal here is literally to captivate or to capture any kind of black male voters that he can potentially go after, but it's a fucking dud anyway. That, I think, was the old method against Joe Biden. That's not going to work against Kamala Harris, especially when the entire Republican Party is just running the DEI narrative, which is something that every black person, every brown person, every person that's not white has heard a million times over in their lives. So it's just an immediate reminder of what that is. It's like affirmative action, CRT, DEI, woke. These are all substitutes for basically saying you don't deserve your position. It's just a reminder of that white supremacist narrative. You know, if he doesn't try to address that in a better way, if he doesn't have a good enough counter to that, if he doesn't have a good enough way to move away from that and like talk about Kamala Harris's qualifications, he's going to negatively polarize people against him, people that he's trying to actually win over to his side.
Giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them...
By the way, every single thing that she's saying is true. You might be like, oh, well, she obviously has an agenda, but it's like, but it's true. He did do all of those things. Her bias in this situation is completely irrelevant to the points that she's making, because the points that she's making are absolutely correct.
A loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner, first question.
Doesn't he call white journalists losers and call their questions as well? No, he definitely does do that. Like, context and nuance is important in these situations. You don't call a woman a bitch or a sucker. You call a woman a dick, right? When you call a woman a bitch, it's a little bit different. That's number one. Number two, like, I call myself an ape or a monkey regularly, right? Obviously, if you were to do that to a black person, everybody understands what you're doing. Contextually, something that might be appropriate in one situation is not going to be appropriate in another situation. One is unimaginably racist. The other one is just, you know, jokes. That's the difference there in terms of like Donald Trump obviously having all the smoke for journalists across the board. Having said that, however, Donald Trump has been extra racially animated in terms of dealing with people of color that are at odds with him.
You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and you know, and I say this,
dude, I love the black population, dude. Also, 60-plus-year-old white men can never navigate this situation correctly in general. When you're like a 60-plus-year-old white dude, and Joe Biden was really bad on this too, you just always come across like you're saying, I got binders full of blacks in my cabinet, which is what Joe Biden basically said. If you recall on the BET interview that he conducted, he was basically like, I have so many blacks. It's never a good look. It's just never a good look. It's like something that is not going to be easy to address, and there's not really anything you could do. It's a you know, you're in a bind in that situation. But Trump, on the other hand, tries to be like, listen, I'm the president. You could just, the only way that if you're Trump to answer this question, the only way to do it is like, listen, I was the president. Okay. I was the president of all Americans. Okay. That includes black Americans as well. Here are some of the policy positions that I pushed for. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, no, I love all of the black people. I love all of the black people of America.
Historically, black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with...
Like, I also personally think that this is like a little whiny. This is something that he did a lot after 2020 when he lost the election, where like there's a difference between being butthurt about like liberal elites and then like using that real that real anger and resentment you have towards liberal elites and then basically packaging that as like real anger and resentment that the white working class has towards liberal elites. He does a really good job with that, and he did a really good job with that in the 2016 election. He did a really good job with that in general. But when you constantly fucking whine about how you didn't actually lose the election, you come across like a whiny fucking loser. And he's doing that here. This isn't a good way to answer any of these questions. You just now look butthurt. You look like you're complaining. It's too narcissistic that even like those in the edges, maybe not like the diehard MAGA loyalists, like that one guy who's like clapping like a fucking seal in the audience, the average voter who's like maybe thinking about voting for Trump, maybe hasn't made up their minds even at this fucking point or whatever, like they're not going to look at this and go, oh yeah, no, that's my goat right there. It just, you look like a bitch. You look like a little baby. You're like, you didn't even say hello to me. You didn't say hello to me at all. It's very fucked up. You lied to me. Kamala was supposed to be here. It's just not great. Also, he did know Kamala Harris wasn't going to be there. Crazy Kamala disrespectfully refused to attend the National Association of Black Journalists Conference, but I'm on my way to meet with them now in Chicago, because of which they'll probably end up doing. She has no choice, but remember, it is only for that reason. He tried to hedge his bets.
With Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect.
Also, the reason why he was half an hour late is because apparently, according to HuffPost, Deputy Editor of HuffPost, Philip Lewis, I'm told that Trump is demanding that the National Association of Black Journalists do not live fact check, and that's why the event hasn't started. We're in a standoff. That was part of the reason why.
They couldn't get their equipment working or something
Mr.
was
President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of that.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me if you.
It's like that's what it means. Like it means diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it. She just defined it. I like that in my head canon. He's like, no, literally, I don't know what it means. Everyone keeps saying it. I don't know what those were. In my head canon, I'm imagining Trump literally being like, I genuinely don't know what those words mean, and I'm kind of scared because everyone always talks about it. So please, can you help me out a little bit? Like, it would be so sick.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number.
Yo, bruh, you can't just like pull that ripcord. It's like saying Obama is white because he's half white. Absolutely zero people think that way. Okay, saying that to a room full of black journalists is insane. About a woman born in Oakland too. Like, oh Jesus Christ. Oh Jesus Christ.
A number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be.
Also, even if she was just like straight up an Indian woman, that's still calling her a DEI hire in that circumstance would still be the same shit, which is awesome because in a weird way, this almost feels, chat, I'm out of jail. Congratulations to Horny Toad 420 for being released from jail. It just doesn't make any sense unless you mean DEI is just directly a substitute for the N-word. So it doesn't fit in his mind to Kamala Harris, who is Indian and not black, I guess. It doesn't make sense for Kamala, who's Indian. Is that what he's trying to say? I don't get it.
There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length.
They pulled Trump off stage. That's what happened.
2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much.
Oh, they pulled him. I thought it was weird because I thought, oh, there's one last question about Project 2025. And then he was like, no, we're leaving. I didn't realize that it was his team that pulled him. Oh, dude, that's really fucking, that's not good. Again, that's another fucking misstep overall. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, honestly. Like, there is no reason to attend this. You could have just straight up said, I'm not attending it because Kamala's not attending it. In his mind, he did great.